Hi, I'm Kim, taking you through some of the things people are talking about and the stuff they're sharing around the world on NewsFeed today. A tense standoff between a teen and a Native American in Washington goes viral and raises questions about race and respect. Why saving the planet begins on your plate. We speak to one of the authors behind the diet promising to heal the earth and your health. Sony drops R. Kelly from its label over a decade after the first allegations of abuse were made. And Bye Bye Boo. We pay tribute to the world's cutest dog. The white teenager filmed apparently taunting a Native American man during an Indigenous protest in Washington, D.C. has finally come out with his version of events. Video captured the protest on Friday and shows a tense confrontation, which has been described as hate unbridled. Many have weighed in on the footage, which features a group of Catholic schoolboys from Kentucky who were at an anti-abortion protest, and a Native American war veteran who says he was just trying to get away from the mob.
Them saying, build that wall, build that wall. This is indigenous lands. You know, we're not supposed to have walls here. We never did.
Land gets stolen. It's how it works.
I had put myself in a really dangerous situation, you know. There's like, here's a group of people who were angry at somebody else, and I put myself in front of that.
Let's have a look now at some other things that caught our eye on social media. R&B singer R. Kelly is reportedly being dropped from record label Sony Music. There's been a massive backlash against the singer, who's actually been accused of sexual misconduct on and off for the past 20 years. But it's gotten worse in recent weeks after the release of a documentary where several women talk openly about his alleged abuse. That sparked the hashtag #MuteRKelly, an online movement it seems is now having an impact. Banksy has gifted a Welsh steelworker a holiday or two after the sale of this piece titled Season's Greetings. The art appeared on Ian Lewis's thoroughly nondescript garage at the end of last year. He sold it to an art dealer for a six-figure sum. Merry Christmas to you, Mr. Lewis. The art itself has a classic Banksy theme. It's a cute kid playing in snowflakes. Oh no, actually he's playing in the ash of a garbage bin fire, of course. And if you've ever found yourself wanting to pray with the Pope, I don't know, maybe you do. Well, now you can. Just download the Click to Pray app, brought to you by none other than the head of the Roman Catholic Church himself. Pope Francis, who is notoriously bad with technology, launched the app with a simple swipe before turning to his assistant to ask, "Did I do it?" "Yes, Pope Francis, you did." you may be aware Davos kicks off this week. That's the super rich and powerful getting together at a ski resort to try and solve the world's toughest problems. But you may not have been aware that what's on the menu in a very literal sense is playing a huge role in what's on the agenda. Climate change is a huge topic this year, and as such, so is plant-based eating. That's because the food sector and the way we're eating as a species is actually destroying the planet. There's greenhouse gases from cows, the huge amount of water needed to keep animals for food alive, and pollution from nitrogen and phosphorus. Basically, the meat we're eating is becoming a major driver of climate change. But the future doesn't have to be total doom and gloom, nor does it have to be entirely meat-free. I mean, if that's what you're into. A panel of the world's best scientists have come up with the Flexitarian diet, which, if we all adhered to, could end starvation and obesity while saving the planet. I spoke to one of the authors of the report on which the diet is based, Fabrice de Klerk.
When we looked at environment, we looked at 5 factors. We looked at climate, we looked at biodiversity, we looked at water utilization, looked at water quality, nitrogen and phosphorus contamination, and then we looked at the land allocation, so how much land agriculture currently takes for food production. So 40% of our current land surface is now dedicated to food production. So those were the 5 parameters that defined how we look at environment, of which climate, of course, is a major factor.
A lot of people think vegetarians or vegans, that's some crazy diet. Not everyone needs to do that. But what you're saying is most people need to move towards a more plant-based diet for the sake of the environment.
Yeah, more plant-based, certainly. Although, the plant-based diet we're recommending is one that's completely compatible with World Health Organization recommendations and one that still recognizes the value of meat in diet. What we're talking about is about 75 grams of animal meat per day, most of that coming from fish or poultry, with much smaller quantities coming from beef. For beef, we're talking about a small hamburger per week, about 100, 150 grams of beef per week. So it's a huge reduction in red meat, particularly for Americans and for Europeans, or maintaining smaller quantities for other parts of the world and avoiding, I think, the transition that we've seen in the Western world.
So red meat, from an environmental perspective, is a really unsustainable thing.
Under current production practices, yeah, it's a very inefficient way to convert vegetable matter into human food. We're concerned by a couple of things. One is the methane emissions emitted by livestock, and there may be some technological fixes to this, but even more concerned about the amount of natural land, forest ecosystems that are converted either to make pastures or to produce feed for livestock. And if we continue to consume in the way that we are in the Western world, 6 to 7 times the amount of red meat that's recommended, it's not only bad for our own health, but there simply isn't enough land to allow us to do that. It calls for an increase of 90% of the expansion of land, and it also drives an increase of greenhouse gas emissions by 60%. So if we all go towards a Western diet, we can't do it either from a climate point of view, nor from a biodiversity and land point of view.
And we have these two seemingly incompatible things. On the one hand, we have an increase in obesity from the type of food that people are eating. And then on the other hand, we have so many millions of people who are starving. But this diet addresses both of those things.
Yeah, that's correct. So it's a universal dietary guideline. Of course, what you might do is different in different parts of the world. It's 2,500 kilocalories per person, primarily plant-based. We're talking about half of your plate covered with fruits, nuts, and vegetables, 30% of your energy coming from grains, preferably whole grains, reduced or a very modest amount of animal protein and more plant-based protein. So these are beans, pulses, lentils. And if you follow that diet, yes, you may have an increase in calorie consumed in parts of sub-Saharan Africa. It's a significant reduction in food consumption in the Western world. We're consuming 3,700 calories per person today. That's 30% more food than we need to. So a tremendous amount of waste is not just what we don't consume, but is the overconsumption that we're consuming as well. So significant savings, both in terms of health and environment, by reducing or eliminating overconsumption.
Thank you so much for that, Fabrice de Klerk. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate your time.
Okay, let's go around the world now for some other stories you need to know today. Now, there's no denying inequality around the world, but the latest numbers by Oxfam show that the gap between rich and poor is only getting wider. It says 26 of the world's richest billionaires own as much wealth and assets as, get this, 3.8 billion people who are the poorest on the planet. And if that doesn't make you question equality, the report says a 1% tax on that wealth would change the world, giving all children around the world access to education and prevent up to 3 million deaths a year. After suffering a historic defeat, the British Prime Minister will return to Parliament on Monday and set out her proposal to break the deadlock on Brexit. Theresa May was resoundingly defeated last week when her plan to exit the European Union was voted down. She has started talks with MPs from all parties on ways to move forward, but the terms of the newest deal have yet to be agreed on by Parliament. And some of you may have noticed a burning red disk in the sky last night, the fairly rare super blood moon. That's a supermoon when the moon is closest to the Earth and a total lunar eclipse at the same time. If you're still confused, well, a lunar eclipse is when the whole of the moon enters the Earth's shadow. And the reddening, well, that's the Earth's atmosphere, all those lovely little molecules that make our sky blue. So cool. Now, live streaming is normally dominated by younger generations, but some unlikely role models are changing the trend and claiming their share of the digital world in China. Ruby Zaman introduces us to one woman who's finding her niche audience and attracting a following she's dreamed of all her life.
Wang Jingxiang is live streaming her songs in front of a virtual audience from a square by the Bird's Nest Stadium in Beijing. It's biting cold, but Wang is undeterred. At 62, she's trying to make it big on China's massive social media scene. Wang boasts 23,000 followers, and her confidence comes from these social media fans who listen to her live performances online, giving Wang an unparalleled outlet to express herself.
It lets old people exercise at home, sing songs better, and place themselves on a platform. If you have beautiful clothes, just wear them, and if you love a song, just try your best to sing it. That's the best thing.
But it's a tough audience to attract, and she's also been a victim of cyberbullying.
Yes, there are some who berated me and said I was so old that I should stop messing around. They asked me to stop singing and to leave this to the youngsters. Yes, there are some people like this, but I will educate them to tell them that they have their market audience, and I have mine.
The internet is censored in China, but it has its own social media platforms. And the relative freedom of online streaming means that users like Wang can use them to showcase their talent. Wang's main audience is over 60, a representation of China's rapidly aging nation. By 2050, 1 in every 3 Chinese citizens will be over the age of 60.
Old people should cherish and grasp their best time when they're children, become independent, and their parents have also passed away, and so they are not limited by their own circumstances. Enjoy your life and do what you want. I believe it is a happy way to spend the later part of your life.
Later this year, Wang's longtime dream will come true. She'll be performing live at one of China's television studios. But until then, the internet is her fountain of youth.
Old people do not have a place in society, and no one cares about us. When I first applied to become a TV host, people said I was too old. They wouldn't give me an opportunity, even though I can sing. Now there's this live streaming platform, and I don't have to hide. I don't have to hide my talents.
Now, I'd like to take today's Animals Doing Stuff to honour the passing of the papa, the legend, the fluffiest foofy you ever did see, social media star Boo. Boo the Pomeranian has died aged 12, apparently of a broken heart. You see, Boo's BFF buddy, who he had lived with for 11 years, died in 2017. Ever since then, Boo has had heart problems. Then on Friday, dearest Boo passed away peacefully in his sleep. Boo had 16 million Facebook followers and brought every single one of them, including me, great joy. Rest in peace, Boo, the world's cutest dog. That is all we have from the NewsFeed team. Reach out to me with your questions, your comments and your complaints if you've got them. At Kim Vanel, you'll find us 24/7 on Twitter and YouTube. See you tomorrow.